All right, diving in today, folks, we're looking at a really fascinating story, the story of Lu Wenlong. We've got some excerpts from a historical text that, details his early life, but more importantly, a pretty big shift in his loyalties and who he ends up fighting for.
Yeah, absolutely. A really interesting figure. And we're talking about a time of just, huge conflict in the Central Plains at the Jin Dynasty, led by King Wushu, who, as you'll see, is quite key in Lu Wenlong's story. And they are clashing, pretty brutally with the Song Dynasty and their legendary commander, Marshal Yufei.
Yeah, the name Yufei always brings up, just images of this incredible military leader. So our mission today, if you will, is to sort of figure out the role of this young warrior, Lu Wenlong. He's raised in the north, in the Jin territories, and comes into this conflict, as a real force fighting for the Jin.
Yeah, and he makes a quite a dramatic entrance onto the scene. Picture it. Two massive armies clashing, and suddenly, bursting onto the battlefield, you have Lu Wenlong. He's only 16 years old at this point, but the text describes him as incredibly imposing. They use the measurements of the time, but essentially he's a huge guy, broad-shouldered, and after 13 years up north, he's become an absolute master of combat.
Okay, so combat mastery, let's talk about that a bit. He's not, just some guy with a sword. This guy is wielding count them, two six-shen spears.
That's right, two of them. And a six-shen spear, for those who might not know, is a type of long spear. And to wield two of them with the skill that he's described as having, and the text really paints a picture saying he moves like a dragon flying up and down, left and right. I mean, that suggests just an insane level of martial arts prowess.
Yeah, no kidding. That's not something you just pick up overnight. So how does this incredible skill, how does it play out when he actually hits the battlefield?
Well, let's just say the Song forces get a very rude awakening. Lu Wenlong, in his first engagement, takes down two Song generals, Hu Tianbao and Hu Tianqing. Just like that. You can almost imagine the shockwave that must have gone through the Song ranks, losing two commanders so quickly, so decisively.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge blow, not just strategically, but for morale, right?
Right.
So how does the legendary Marshal Yufei, how does he respond to this new threat?
Yu Fei, always the strategist, he comes up with a plan. He employs what's known as a wheel battle tactic. The idea is to just keep rotating fresh troops in against Lu Wenlong, preventing him from really getting an advantage over any one opponent. It's about trying to wear him down over time.
So basically throw wave after wave of guys at this one incredibly skilled warrior. Did it work?
Well, the fighting that follows is described as just insanely intense. They're going at it until nightfall. But even against this constant rotation of opponents, Li Wenlong holds his own. The battle ends without a clear victor. And his skill, his stamina, it's really remarkable.
Here's the thing that really got me. Even though Lu Wenlong is clearly a phenomenal fighter, holding off, all these seasoned Song generals, King Wushu, his own side, they order a retreat. Why pull back when you're not losing?
You see, King Wushu, he understands the danger of the Song's wheel battle. Even the best warrior will eventually tire. He's not admitting defeat. He's making a strategic move. It really shows how important Lu Wenlong was to them.
Yeah, it's like, we need to protect this guy. He's too valuable. So after this initial clash, this really dramatic entry for Lu Wenlong, what happens next in this whole conflict?
This is where a really key figure comes in on the Song side, Wang Zu. He's one of Yu Fei's commanders, a smart, brave guy. He sees just how good Lu Wenlong is and realizes they need a different approach.
Okay, different approach. You got to be more specific. What does that even mean when you're talking about, facing a guy like Lu Wenlong?
Wang Zu comes up with a plan. And it's pretty extreme. Drawing on some historical examples, he decides on what are called a bitter flesh strategy.
Bitter flesh. That doesn't sound pleasant.
It's not. It involves self-mutilation, basically, as a way to convincingly fake a defection to the Jin camp. Wang Zu actually cuts off his own left arm.
Whoa, okay, that's next level. So he goes to Yufei with one arm and this wild plan. How does Yufei even react to that?
Yu Fei is, as you might imagine, completely stunned. But he also recognizes Wang Zuo's loyalty, the courage it takes to do something like that. But Yu Fei also says, I've got my own plans here. But Wang Zu, he's insistent. He truly believes this is the best way to break the stalemate.
So despite Yufei's, probably some hesitation, some objections even, he agrees.
He does. And so Wang Zu, now missing an arm, he goes to the Jin camp. He tells a story about how he was punished by Yu Fei for wanting peace with the Jin. And as proof, well, there's the missing arm, right? It's pretty convincing, and the Jin generals, they are totally taken in by it.
I mean, that's a hell of a gamble, but it sounds like it worked. They actually believed him.
They did. King Wushu gives him the name Bitter Man, out of sympathy, I guess. And Wang Zu is given a good deal of freedom to move around the Jin camp, and he uses this to his advantage.
Okay, so not just moping around being the bitter man. What's he actually doing?
Well, he's a bit of a natural storyteller, this Wang Zu. So he starts to chat with the Jin soldiers, telling them stories, building rapport. And through these conversations, completely by chance, he stumbles on a crucial piece of information.
Ooh, okay, a crucial piece of information. What is it?
He meets Lu Wenlong's nanny. They start talking. And through these talks, Wang Zu finds out that Lu Wenlong isn't actually King Wushu's son. He's the son of Lu Ding, a Song official, the magistrate of Luan, and his wife, Madame Jiu. King Wushu took him in after capturing Luan 13 years earlier.
Wait, hold on. So this incredible warrior for the Jin, he's actually the son of Song officials who were defeated by the Jin. That's huge. What does Wang Zuo do with this?
He realizes this is a game changer. But he can't just blurt it out. He has to be smart about it. He needs to plant a seed, make Lu Wenlong question things, and it just so happens that Lu Wenlong asks Wang Zuo to tell him stories about the Central Plains, where he's actually from.
That's interesting. This fierce Jin warrior,
Yeah.
curious about his enemy's land. So what does Wang Zuo tell him?
He tells two very specific stories. One is called The U-Bird Returns South. It's about this parrot native to the south that's taken north as a gift to a king. But up north, it's silent, miserable, and then it gets back to the south and starts singing again, happy to be home.
Right, so a pretty clear message about belonging, about home. What's the other story?
The second one is called The Loyal Horse Faces North. This one is about a northern warhorse that's captured and brought south. They treat it well, feed it good food, but the horse refuses to eat, constantly looking north. Eventually, it dies just from longing for home.
Wow. These are some pretty powerful stories, especially for someone who might have this subconscious pull towards a place they don't even remember. What's Lu Wenlong's reaction?
He seems particularly struck by the horse story. He even says something like, "What a righteous horse." Wang Zuo uses this to suggest that maybe people can feel that same deep connection to their birthplace. And then he leaves, having given Lu Wenlong a lot to think about.
Okay, so the seed is planted. What happens next? Does Wang Zuo just come out and tell him everything?
Not right away. A few days pass, and then he goes to Lu Wenlong and asks for a private chat. He knows it's time. And he brings a painting with him.
A painting? What is it a painting of?
It shows Lu Wenlong's real father, Lu Deng, in his official robes, with his wife, Madame Ji, and a young Lu Wenlong as a kid crying next to his mother. And in the background, there are Jin soldiers showing the fall of Luan.
That's a pretty heavy image. What does Wang Zuo say about it?
He explains that the place is Luan, Lu Wenlong's true home, that the man and woman are his parents. He points to the crying child and says, "That's you."
The pieces must be starting to click for Lu Wenlong now. How does Wang Zuo tie all of this back to King Wushu?
He tells the whole story. How King Wushu attacked Luan, how Lu Wenlong's parents fought bravely but died defending the city, and how King Wushu took the 3-year-old Lu Wenlong and raised him as his own son, not knowing who he really was. It's this incredible irony, Lu Wenlong serving the man who killed his parents.
Man, that's brutal. What does Lu Wenlong do when he hears all this?
The text says he's just stunned, speechless, staring at the painting. Eventually he's like, "No wonder my name is Lu Wenlong. I'm a Central Plains person. My parents, it all hits him at once."
But that's a lot to take in. Is there anyone else to back up this story?
Right at that moment, Lu Wenlong's nanny comes in, crying. And she confirms everything Wang Zu has said. She remembers it all, the deaths of his parents, everything. So now he's got confirmation from someone he's always known.
So he knows the truth now, this whole tragic story. What's he going to do about it?
His first reaction is, well, it's understandable. He's furious, heartbroken. He kneels before the painting, grieving for his parents. Then he gets up, draws his sword, and vows to kill King Wushu. He wants to go to the Song side immediately and get revenge.
I mean, you can't really blame him, right? Wanting to just go and fight.
Of course not. But Wang Zu stops him. He says, "Look, King Wushu is well protected. You'll get yourself killed, and it won't achieve anything." He's like, "We need to be smart about this."
And does Lu Wenlong listen? He's in this emotional whirlwind.
He does. You can see he respects Wang Zuo, recognizes that he knows what he's doing. He bows to him and says he'll follow his lead.
Okay, so a new plan is brewing. What happens next in this whole saga?
Well, a few days later, King Wushu unveils a new weapon, fire cannons, these things called Iron Float 2.0. He's planning a surprise attack on the Song camp at night, thinking this will finally crush them.
Fire cannons, that's a whole new level of threat.
No.
Do Lu Wenlong and Wang Zio have any chance to warn the Song?
They know they have to act fast. In the dead of night, Lu Wenlong rides to the Song camp. He's incredibly brave, riding right up to their defenses. He shoots an arrow over the walls, and attached to it is a secret message for Yufei, telling him about the attack.
That's some serious cloak and dagger stuff. What does Yufei do?
He gets the message and instantly knows what's going on. This must be Wang Zuo's plan in action. He orders a full evacuation of the camp, but they do it silently, in the dark, leaving everything behind to make it look like they're still there.
So the entire Song army just disappears.
Pretty much. And the Jin forces, they launch their attack, bombarding the empty camp with these cannons. The text says it was like the mountains were shaking, but they're hitting nothing. And in the morning, King Wushu realizes he's been tricked. I can only imagine how angry he must have been.
Oh yeah, totally outplayed. And what about Lu Wenlong?
The very next day, word gets out that he, along with his nanny and Wang Zuo, they've all made it to the Song side. Wang Zuo's sacrifice, Lu Wenlong switching sides, it all worked. The Song have gained a huge advantage.
Wow. So from deadly enemy to key ally, all thanks to the truth coming out in this incredible act of selflessness, that's something else. What are some of the big takeaways for our listeners from this whole crazy story?
I think for me, it's about the power of knowing your own history. It can change everything about how you see yourself, who you're loyal to. Lu Wenlong is a perfect example.
And then there's the impact of selflessness. I mean, what Wang Zhu did, cutting off his own arm, it's almost hard to imagine, but it saved lives, maybe even changed the outcome of the war. Talk about commitment.
Right. And then the reminder that things can change so fast, so unexpectedly. Who would have thought that the Jin's greatest weapon would become the Song's savior? It's a story full of twists and turns.
Yeah, definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. So for everyone listening, think about this. What would it take to shake your deepest loyalties? What kind of revelation could make you rethink everything you thought you knew? It's a question that goes way beyond just this story. It's about who we are, what we believe in. It's pretty deep stuff.
It really is. It makes you wonder about those moments in history or even in our own lives where our sense of self, our allegiances, they get challenged. And what we do when that happens. I think that's something worth reflecting on for all of us.
Absolutely. It's about those moments that define us, the choices we make when everything's on the line. And on that note, folks, we'll leave you to ponder all that. Until next time, keep diving deep.